Welcome to the Child Care Director's Chair, the podcast for bold educators who are ready to lead, grow, and shake things up in early childhood education. Whether you're a teacher eyeing that lead role, a lead stepping into leadership, or a center owner dreaming big, this is your space to grow with purpose and leave your mark. Hosted by heart-centered leadership coach Erica Sacoccio, each episode brings you real talk, actionable tools, and a contagious laugh or two, all designed to help you step into your next level with confidence. So pour your coffee, pop in those earbuds, and take your seat, because your leadership journey starts right now in the Child Care Director's Chair.
One. Hey guys, it's Erica here with the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. We're going to have a lot of fun today. We have some folks here from Tiny Chair podcast and the company family. And I just thought it was really funny. Like, what happens when you bring tiny chairs to the director's chair? Well, you're going to get a powerhouse conversation about the most often misunderstood things happening in your classroom every day, which is observations. We're going to talk a little bit about observations today in your classroom. So scoot on in, get comfy. We saved a seat for you. Today, I am joined by Meg and Anders from Family, and we're going to talk about not only classroom observations, but how to use technology and how that can transform the way that we document children's growth. Not boring, not the clipboard kind, not the check the box kind, but the kind that strengthens quality, it builds family trust, and empowers your teachers. And of course, supports compliance, because we always have to be in compliance. And also make sure your program shine. I'm a program owner and I want my school to look like a rock star. So we're going to jump on in. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome. Thanks for having us, Erica. And I just want to
Thanks for
say,
having us.
I hope that we're in more comfortable chairs as being in the director's chairs, because my colleagues who run the Tiny Chair pod, they literally are sitting in tiny chairs during their podcast interviews. So we have the luxury of being pretty comfortable today.
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
I
I
have
feel
a
like I'm
great
totally
chair.
wrong because I'm actually standing up. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
My director chair actually was bought by Kate and Carrie, who bought me a branded chair for my 5th episode. So they're super sweet. So cheers to our
Wow.
girls, Kate and Carrie, on the Child Care Conversations podcast. So tell us a little bit about the company and how it started. Give us a little history.
Anders, I'm
maybe
looking
it's
at
time
you for
for
that one.
history lesson and all. I go way back. Yeah, we've been going for 12 years now. So we started out back in 2013. Erica, as you mentioned, with my accent, you could probably hear that I'm not necessarily from the US. So we started out in Denmark, where we founded the business together with my co-founder, Henrik, where his daughter started in childcare at the time. And we saw that everything was paperwork, small notes back and forth, bulletin boards, no one was reading. And that kind of interaction between the home and the families and providers were very inefficient and not very effective, right? No one was listening, no one was hearing, and it was not a good way, neither for parents, but also not for the providers. So that's kind of how we started back in the day. And since then, we never looked back. We saw there was so many things that we could help providers with in various different aspects. So yeah, now the platform is, of course, much more than just communication and engagement, but everything from your finance to staff scheduling to learning and observations and admin and check in and check out and various other things. So we see ourselves as like a full-fledged childcare management platform now. And that's, of course,
Nice.
developed over the years. So, we started out in Denmark, and now we are in the UK, we're in Norway, we're in Germany, Switzerland, and also in the US. It's been a
Awesome.
journey.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Your app has a passport.
Yeah, love that.
So, Megan, tell us a little bit about you. I know you come from the educational background. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. It's funny. My background originally is not in early childhood or childcare. I graduated from school with a degree in theater, and I had grand dreams of how can I be in the entertainment industry? And I quickly burnt out in that. I was at a company that did e-commerce for Lady Gaga and Dave Matthews Band. And I was like, these guys don't need my help. They are doing a good enough job of getting their attention and getting their fans. And I actually kind of stumbled into a job that was local to me at Teachstone. They make the class tool. Some people might be familiar with them. They do a lot of early ed stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been missing is early childhood.
Yeah.
My mom was a pre-K teacher. My mother-in-law is a childcare teacher. I have 7 18 nieces and nephews. I nannied in college. Like, this whole world of early ed always felt like it was somehow adjacent to me. And then I fell into it.
Sounds like
And I
destiny
was
to
like,
me, Megan.
it's destiny. And I felt like I could use my skills that I learned in the entertainment industry of like capturing attention and like
Yeah.
promoting, getting the word out there for the importance of early ed. And I can use those skills in this space. So I worked to teach
For
them for a
sure.
few years, and then I've also worked at some nonprofits, and I recently joined Family about a year ago, and I have been loving it. It's been kind of fun to hear the perspectives of some of my coworkers over in like the UK and Germany, and to learn about childcare over on the other side of the globe a bit.
Yeah. Sounds really fun. Sounds really fun. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about observations, what they are, why we use them, how we use them, how this tool can help support what teachers are doing in the classroom. So, because observations sometimes get labeled as like, just paperwork, but that's sometimes a misconception. What do you feel like you hear the most about how people are using your app to do observations, why they need to do them, because they're not just paperwork.
I love that. I'm happy to start. I know Anders has some ideas too, but I think for me, so I'm also a parent. I have a 6-year-old son. And so seeing this firsthand, like, it's been really helpful to build a relationship with my son's teachers over the years. And I think observations has been a really, for me, beneficial way to like build this foundation of trust with his teachers, right? And I think that as a technology company, like, we have what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, we should be doing our best to make it as easy as possible for families and teachers build that relationship together. And I think observations are actually a huge part of that. Obviously, it's important to get those observations marked down so you can identify early intervention needs, or, just know a child's strengths or areas for development. But then to be able to share that with parents and have this like, here's an example of behavior that shows me that your child has mastered the skill or might need some additional support in this other area. I think that that's really important to have captured somewhere so that you have this foundation for a conversation back and forth between all the adults in a child's life.
Yeah. And it reminds me actually what surprises when we started Family 12 years ago that we just talked about, that, what we saw as a positive effect, and we didn't know so much about it. We, of course, came from it from the parent angle and didn't know, was that it created a lot more respect, the sharing of moments that were happening, again, where you were also explaining why you were doing certain things. That gained a lot of respect from parents, because some parents have the idea that, the kids are just going to play around, they're just going to sit in the corner and do their own thing, and that's what it's a place that you just put your kids and you pick them up 10 hours later. And I think just giving parents a view into it, like, actually we saw increased the respect for teachers, that they're doing all this stuff and there's a reason behind it and there's a method. So I think it's incredibly important also that not only those moments are recorded for eternal use and we make it as easy as possible, but also that, they are shared and you give parents an understanding and be on the same page of where the child's at. And I think that's part of what, we fight a lot to elevate the sector, and because we don't feel like this sector, early education, doesn't get the respect that it deserves as later education. And we feel like giving the parents a view into what's actually going on, because the parents don't know, it's hugely important part of that.
I love that. As an educator, I love that. Thank you so much. One of the things I wanted to ask is, how easy is the navigation? Because in this world, there are not just young parents, but there are grandparents that are caring for children. I currently have an 8-year-old grandson and I'm on his app. And so how easy is it to use? Talk to me a little bit about what you were thinking when you guys designed it.
I could start, and maybe Megan, feel free to pitch in, but I think that's one of the things we really wanted to change. When we started Family, there's a lot of kind of more back-end focused software on administration, and it has a lot of bells and whistles, but not necessarily the nicest to use. I think there was a time for that, but I think times have changed. People don't want to read a book or take a course to figure out how to use an app. They want to be able to sit down and use it instantly, and especially when it comes to parents, but also teachers, they want to be able to look at it. It should be familiar. We, of course, without taking the bad things from social media, we tried to take some of the good things about the recognizability so that parents and teachers could instantly kind of pick up, and they were very familiar interface, and not too many places where they could go wrong. I think it's incredibly important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I second that. As somebody who's only been at the company for a year, I personally found it pretty easy to jump in and learn all of the tools and have shared it with my mom and mother-in-law who might not be the most tech savvy. I don't think that they're listening. I think that's okay to say. But they also found it really easy to use as well. And I almost think of family as like an IKEA of childcare in that it's beautiful, simple design, and that, like, kinda comes from its Scandinavian background.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, how do consistent, well-documented observations directly improve outcomes for children?
Oh my gosh, that's a great
I
question,
know.
and there's
Well, I'm an
so
educator.
much
I love these
research
kinds of
that I
questions.
don't even know where to get started. I think that the data is clear that when you have well-documented moments and have aligned them to different teaching principles, then it makes it easier for children to thrive. I think maybe not what you're asking exactly, but, like, another way in which observations can support that is by identifying, like, you as the educator may have some biases, like, you might not realize that you haven't been looking at child A in the classroom as much as you've been looking at child B. And if you're making those
Mm,
observations, you might realize, oh, I have 3 observations for Mary, but none
yeah.
for little Terry over here. And so that it can be like a little bit of a red flag because you've been documenting it. And you might just like, I might have a little bit of a cloud that I didn't even realize over here. So that's going to help
Yeah,
all
Yeah,
kids thrive in the classroom.
that's a great
yeah.
point, Maggie.
I can only echo that. And I think, like, again, in a perfect world, where everyone could just remember everything and we didn't need any tools to support us, maybe we didn't need as much. But I think, having the support as a teacher to be able to always know where you're at, where's a child at, what should you potentially do next, and how can you support them. It's also like a scaffolding, I think, in some sense to some teachers. And of course, it's like different experience level we see at different providers. And I think it provides a good scaffolding to move forward, other than, of course, the shared, when you share it with parents, that has an added benefit. But I think it's also nice to be able to work in a structured way because, as we know, it's a stressful day. There's so many things happening, and you may be caring for 10, 12 children or whatever it may be, and teachers may be handing over between each other because some are with them some part of the day and some the other parts. So that, I think, creating that structure is essential also to work kind of methodically with the
Yeah.
development. And again, each child, of course, develops at different pace, but and different things, and also taking that into account, I think, is incredibly important.
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like maybe the observation data too really can be used to empower teachers instead of feeling overwhelmed. So like I love the point that you made, Megan, too. And sometimes that child that only has 1 or 2 observations because they come 2 days a week as opposed to the kid who comes 5 days a week. So you can be really strategic and be like, "Okay, let me mark this down to make sure that I do the observation on Johnny on Tuesday because I know he only comes 2 days a week." So it gives you a lens that you might not necessarily have without using a digital app or a tool to really give you the bigger picture. So I think that
Mhm.
that was a great point that you made.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, talk to me a little bit more about your app and the different features. Let's get into that a little bit more.
I'll just say one more thing about the
Sure,
observations before I know
sure.
Anders has a lot more to share. But one thing that I like about family, and it kind of goes back to that, like building relationships among all the adults, is that parents can also, or caregivers can also make an observation and send it to their teacher. So over the weekend, they might say, we were working on tracing, and I'm like so excited to see this progress. So I think that that's one thing that I haven't seen in other tools that I've used as a parent that's kind of exciting and gets to that collaboration piece. But yeah, there's so much to cover in family. Like Anders said, it's all in one. So I'll toss over to you if there's anything specific you want to highlight, Anders.
No, I think we've seen, like, again, probably no surprise that people are tired of using many different tools, and they, where they update the same thing, and maybe they have child records, for example, in 3, 4 different tools. Like, so we're really trying to bring everything together under one hood, and make
Yeah,
sure that everything is seamless. And I think our purpose with that is basically we see family when it comes to teachers and directors and admins. Like, it's really like, how do we make sure family is used as little as possible? Basically, we want them to get back to what really matters,
yeah,
and that's why, workflows should be seamless. You should be able to quickly get your work done and then get back. It's not our goal that teachers run around with a tablet at all times in the classroom, but it's our goal
yeah,
that they get it done quickly, and maybe even sometimes just when the kids nap, but and then they get back to it. So we know some of this admin is necessary, and then it's our job to just make sure that you don't introduce any admin that you're not supposed to do, because so we also say, like, if you don't do it on paper, don't start doing all kinds of things when you pick up the app. Keep it to an absolute minimum what you need to do. And that's sort of the same philosophy we have across, in whether you're doing your staff scheduling, or whether your invoices are running automatically and your payments are handled, or whether it's the way you do, observations and assessments in family. So we try to tie it all together. Yeah. And so an exciting time, and that's our mission. And basically we measure the teams on, how, of course we want them to use the product, but how little can we get that to, and how fast can they do the workflows?
The teachers in the background are screaming with joy. I can think about, like, when we switched our app about a year and a half ago, and I remember the teachers when I said, all right, guys, we have to, like, I'm also one that doesn't really love change, and their body was just like, oh my God, we got to learn another new thing. So I know that teachers really do appreciate when something is just really, like you said earlier, you don't want a big book of, like, an encyclopedia of how do I use this thing. And also, can we talk about, and I don't know the answer to this, so I hope it's a good one. Can we talk about customer service? Can we talk about what that looks like? Because I know some of us that have the apps that we have right now don't get people, or don't get the customer service that we really need in, like, live time. So can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, maybe Megan, do you want to pitch in?
Yeah, sure. I would love to.
Let's talk.
I'll just say, when you were reaching out to family, you're reaching out to Michelle, to Josh, to Kirsten. Like, the I know the support team. I love the support team, and I know that our responsiveness is very fast. I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I'm happy to follow up with you and share that. But it's very fast. There's ways to call your account manager, your dedicated account manager. You also have access to, like, a chat bot and a help center. So if you are the kind of person who likes to figure things out on your own, you have the tools at your fingertips, and that's, like, built right into the app. And you can also get in touch with the person who's been there supporting you along the way.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a funny thing with support, right? Yeah. Because I think in essence, I'm a product guy, so I love building products. In essence, like, my hope is that you don't need support in the first place. My hope is that it's so intuitive, so easy to go. But when you do, it's also on us, because it's our fault. Like, if you need support, right, it's something that maybe we haven't made easy enough, or you can't figure out, that's on us. So it's also our responsibility to provide that fast and seamless support. And that's our philosophy. You should be able to get us, right, by email, by chat, by phone, and whatever preferred method you want. And different generations have different preferences when it comes to support.
You're on to that, because I'm 55 and my family has a joke about how can you be so smart and run a successful company but can't figure out a remote? I'm like, because when I grew up, we got up to change the channel. That's why, guys. There's like 90 different streaming platforms. I'm like, what are we watching today? Like, I just remember TV, So yeah, I do think it's generational. I can't keep track anymore. Yeah, I do think
and I'm the kind of person that will do anything to avoid the phone. So the fact that we have, like, a chat, I'm like, yes, sign me up for chat. If you have to get me on the phone, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, that's my niece. She's a texter. She sends, I'm like, you're in the other room. She's very productive, for sure. All right, so I want to just ask a few more questions, Meg, about observations, because I know lots of folks have to do this every day in their classroom. And then I'll give you guys an opportunity to maybe just share anything that you think that we missed that you want to really showcase about your program. So maybe what's the difference between collecting data and actually using data to drive classroom decisions?
Great question. Anders, pass it over to you first.
I think for me, because, like, again, sometimes, and usually start a little bit with this, that we can get into, like, oh, we're doing it just for licensing or the inspections or for QRS or whatever it may be. It's sort of documentation, right? But I think we always love when you do stuff that it serves a dual purpose. So yeah, it may be for, to ensure that all the paperwork is done, but you should also get some immediate benefit as a teacher or as a parent out of it. Meaning, you can get an easy report. You can see where everyone's at. You can even get suggestions now in family where it's like, okay, I have these 3 children. This is where they're at. This is the latest observation. And we actually use AI to generate activity suggestions for what could you work with based on their age and the themes you're working with in the classroom. Here could be some example activities. It's also very important, of course, that the human is still making the decision here at the end of the day of what are you going to do in the classroom. But we can then inspire. So I think it's a way to not, to make sure that you do all of this work and you track progress and you track observations and so on. but make sure that that's also work, used in your daily work. That's when you feel it's beneficial. Otherwise, you feel like it's just stupid admin work. So looking at those reports and looking at what themes you should work on in your classroom, or what should work, what is successful, what is not successful, where are my children at, where do I need to pay special attention to, or do we need any help from outside? I think it's incredibly important. I think that's my idea, is that, using, tools in the right way, hopefully should give you that comfort that, I know exactly where my group of children are at and what I need to do and what I can do to make sure that they progress in the best way possible. That should be a benefit for all teachers, I think. And so it shouldn't just be seen as a paperwork.
Yeah. And I think too, directors, like, although the teachers do a lot of the observations in the classroom, I do think it's nice too to be able to go into the system as the director or an owner and take a look and see what's happening in your classrooms. Like, and like you said, like, what supports do the teachers need? If you're seeing, some type of common theme, maybe there's something lacking, or maybe there's some PD that you need to build around that, or maybe it's material. So there's a lot of really helpful information in those observations. I know I like
It's
to
a
look
really good
at them
point.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's funny that you bring up, as a director, it gives you insights into what kinds of PD you might want to use. But similarly, I think as a teacher, if you were going through and looking at some of the observations you made with kids, you might see trends in terms of what kids are interested in, and not only
Yeah.
just their strengths, but sometimes if you can build a lesson plan around princesses and you have a class that loves princesses, that actually can make a big difference to kids' growth and development, because they're going to be hooked. They're going to be more likely to engage in the content and get more excited about that learning and get to a deeper level of learning than maybe you didn't have before. So it's like, yes, not only the adult PD, but then also like you can use that same kind of data to then like create the activities that are going to push kids a little bit more than maybe you would have had before.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put on my owner hat for a second, and just thinking about when we do tours with families, right? Because everybody has an app, right? No, there used to be a time where you would tell people, "Oh, we have an app," and they'd go, "Ooh, well, every tour they have an app of some kind," right? But I think where you show that your knowledge base kind of goes back to what Anders was saying earlier about professionalism of the field. When
Mhm.
parents are picking between your program, which they pay for, right? If you're a private program, versus a public school, which is free almost everywhere now, right? You have the ability to show them, look, we do that here. We aren't just like, playing, even though I'm a playmate, we're not just playing around, as you said, and the kids just in the corner doing whatever. Here's the proof. Here's how we track what your child is doing here. Here's how we track their progress, and being able to show it to them, virtually, on the app or during a tour. I think is a great way to show your program as a standout, right? So
And definitely
use
also
those
that you thought
features.
it through, right? I think that's important to show parents that, hey, it's not
Yeah.
just random what we're doing, or it's not just something
Yeah.
we pulled off the internet or whatever. We actually thought through how we're working with this and how we're working through
Yeah.
like that. That I think is key. And that's what parents want to see.
Yeah. I laughed because as you said that, just something I was just thinking instantly in my brain, I want to design a shirt that says curriculum not designed by Pinterest.
Uh,
I mean that
uh,
somebody's got to make that shirt now, but yeah, it isn't just like cute things that we just pulled up and said, "Oh, this will keep the kids busy for 20 minutes." It really is intentional, and it is built off of children's strengths. They're, where we know they need to to move to the next level.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's really important. So
Yeah,
before
and
we yeah, go ahead, Meg.
I was just gonna say, and to be able to communicate with parents very clearly and using those observation and the data to say, when we do this type of footprint art, for example, it aligns with sensory play. Like kids
Yeah.
need that. It just helps paint that picture of like, we're not just doing this because it's cute, although it is cute because your kids
Yeah.
are cute, but also like you have direct correlation between like children feeling cold paint and talking
Yeah.
about cold. And also, this helps build their brain so that they
Yeah.
understand there's language development there. There's just so much more thinking that goes on behind the scenes that I think that a lot of parents maybe we aren't even aware of. And it's like, it's just mind blowing how much the brain develops in those first few years of life, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So is there anything about the app that I didn't ask you that you really feel like folks listening should know?
That's a good question.
Uh, I would say one of my favorite things. Well, I have two. Two of the things that we didn't talk about that I love. One of them is the in-app translation. So if you are a program that has families that speak different languages, the observations and the direct messaging in the app and like this news feed style communication can all be translated in over 130 languages. So like my mom's center, for example, like she worked in a place that was very close to like a refugee center. So there was families from all around the world, and that would have been so beneficial. She's since retired, but like I know there's a lot of centers out there that are struggling to communicate and share exactly what we just talked about. Like, this is what's going on with your child's brain, or these are the observations we made this week. And to be able to do that in just like a click of a button is game changing for people. So we didn't talk about that, but I could talk about that for so much longer.
Well, that is a really great feature. I don't know any, I mean, there probably is, but none of the apps I've used have had the ability to translate to another language. And we do have
And
some
it goes
Spanish
both
speaking
ways.
families.
Yeah, so if a family has an
Wow.
observation, send you a message, they can just write it in their home language, and then the educator or director can just click a button and they can see it in English.
That's crazy that you brought that up. So I have a teacher who's out on knee surgery, and she keeps tabs on the class through the app because she misses her kids. Shout out to Machina. And there was a new family that started, and they speak Spanish, and they wrote Spanish in the message. And she said, I don't think anybody is going to be able to read that. So her and her daughter used a translator and responded back in Spanish. But that
Yeah,
teacher
that's
just took it
amazing.
on her own to do that. But like, wow, how cool would that have been if our app, which it doesn't, could do that, right? So that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's a great
and to
feature.
save you a little bit of time. Like, I love that she's going out of her way to do that and make them feel like they're a
Yeah,
part of the community,
yeah,
but it is one more important thing to just, like, have it in the app so you
sure.
don't have to, like, take those extra
Yeah,
few minutes to, like, go to Google Translate and copy and paste and
yeah.
all of that. Yeah.
All right, Megan, I want to do something fun with you if you're game. Are you
Oh,
game?
I'm always game.
All right, we're going to do a quick lightning round, my little educator friend. All right, I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to answer one or the other, okay? You ready?
Okay.
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 Digital binder or paper binder or digital dashboard?
Digital dashboard for
Clipboard
sure.
scramble, clipboard scramble, or real-time documentation?
Clipboard scramble.
Okay. Surprise licensing visit or we're ready anytime energy?
We're ready anytime. You gotta roll with the punches.
Okay. One word that describes a rock star program.
Man, I think energetic. Like, you gotta have the energy there.
Okay. Biggest game changer, consistency or technology?
I'm a family. I gotta say technology.
Okay. Okay. You guys have
Consistent
had a great
technology.
You guys have
Consistent
been great
technology.
sports. So we're going to leave the link to your website below in the show notes. Just give people that are just listening that aren't on a computer right now, where do they find you? Give them the socials, give them all the details.
Love it. Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to give your
Amazing. Thanks.
socials? Tell them your socials.
Yeah, we are at Family HQ on Instagram or at Family. It's FAMLY. There's no I in family.
I know, there's no I.
On Facebook, and you can also find us on TikTok. I believe it's at Family. It might be at Family HQ there. I'd have to double
Are
check.
you guys dancing around on TikTok?
You will not catch me dancing around.
Office antics? I love
And
it.
you can also find clips from the Tiny Chair Pod, which
Nice.
is also on Spotify and YouTube as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Shout out to our fellow podcasters. All right, guys. Observations aren't extra. They're essential. They tell the story of your program. They highlight trust. They build trust. They build growth, and they protect your compliance. They elevate your quality. So if your current system feels overwhelming, or if you have to reset it 3 times in a week, it might not be the observations. It might be the system itself that is supporting it. High quality programs don't have to guess. They document, they reflect, they improve. And when you do it well, you don't just meet standards, you become the standard. So that's it. Thank you so much for pulling up a chair with us, whether it's tiny or the director's chair. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, have a great day.
that's a wrap for this episode of the Child Care Director's Chair, where we believe leaders aren't born, they're grown. If something sparked for you today, share it, shout it out, or pass it along to the next bold changemaker in childcare. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with Erica Sakosio for more real talk leadership tools and a whole lot of inspiration. Until next time, lead with heart, grow with fire, and always remember, the chair is yours. Now own it.